Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome to the next block. We are on episode 115. We keeping them coming. Thank you all for tapping in. How's it going, Crypto for Change?
It's going good, going good. Just, the number keeps ticking up as we just keep waiting for this bull market to, really kick, the crazy euphoria part of the bull market, I should say. We've been in a bull market, at least Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of the top, contenders out there, even some, big memes, but, most of the space still just, kind of trading sideways, waiting for the next big move of the big dogs, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And, we've had a lot of catalysts over the past month and a half with Ethereum's ETFs and, um, Bitcoin conference and politicians now and presidents starting to get behind Bitcoin and say what they're going to do. Still nothing, still waiting. So I don't know. What are you seeing out there?
Well, Larry Fink is still bullish on Bitcoin, so the
Obviously.
big dogs are still buying it. The Ethereum fund, I guess it did eventually perform pretty well. Still not as much as that Bitcoin fund did, but that's two funds out there for the big dogs of crypto, the OGs. And I think Ethereum just had its ninth birthday or something like that, if I'm right.
Kind of
Ninth,
funny to think of the blockchain's birthday.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I remember Algorand's fifth birthday, as I call it, or you could say, shoot, got a phone call. My
no,
mama.
it's fine.
Shout out to my mom. She probably hears talking about crypto and she wants some Bitcoin.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what I'm seeing. Otherwise, I feel like we're still just in a zone of just sideways trading for most of all. I think a lot of bottoms are in, but this is crypto. You could always, anything could happen.
I did see a pretty cool chart that showed a correlation between the S&P 500 and its move over the past couple years versus the Bitcoin chart. And it does really, there are a lot of comparisons to, the fact that this is that kind of decent consolidation period before obviously the S&P 500 has now gone on to reach some major new all-time highs, running from like the 4,600, 4,200 all the way up to like 5,600. So, if that's true and it, in those charts, maybe we see that rotation from some of the big stocks and stuff like that into crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the like. And you could see Bitcoin over the next 3-6 months move to, 85 to 100, and, anywhere between 85, I'd say, and 100K. And then Ethereum possibly, make new all-time highs, get back to, maybe even something like 6K to 8K or something like that. So that's definitely, my thoughts over this, next, little bit of time, especially because, fall and winter tends to be bullish for risk assets. They tend to have their best, appreciations during those months. And we obviously still have elections. Obviously, I was talking with Tony from Thinking Crypto yesterday on the show that'll be released. And we were just kind of talking about, Trump versus RFK versus Kamala Harris and all their positioning now on crypto. And it's kind of wild to see how much of a focal point crypto is becoming for some of these politicians trying to win presidency in these camps, and there's different views. So nonetheless, the ending of this year is going to be wild. And I'm sure Larry Fink, as you said earlier, he's in it. He's got bags. So, he's going to want to pump it. It's not like it's going to die from here. It's just, we just got to wait. We got to wait for the big money because obviously retail ain't doing it. Retail is not moving the needle at all. The only thing they're doing is creating 10,000 new meme coins a month.
Exactly. And I feel like, again, we talked about this maybe last week or something, but I see the casino for the retail. That's mostly the casino. And then you got the long-term investors who are putting their bags in Bitcoin and whatnot. And then you have the Larry Finks out there. He working on creating stocks exchanges and different type of funds. So I feel like, they're getting things ready for their institutional clients, right? I forgot what state it was. One of those states or districts that do like police and healthcare workers and school teachers, they bought Bitcoin, put it on their balance sheet right now. I gotta find that. So things like that are happening, and that's a good move right there.
Yeah, you're seeing lots of countries, companies starting to, see Bitcoin as a reserve asset, starting to add that to balance sheets and hold it, either private or publicly in those instances. And you're also seeing, even me and Tony were talking about how people, I think it was on the Avalanche blockchain in California, they're putting titles, right, of cars and stuff like that on the chain. So you're seeing some real utility and some real use case for some of these things. But obviously it's still not enough to really, pull retail and the fresh money, I would say, that's out there in most things like the global money, global money supply already. It looks like they're ready to move higher. Obviously, we have the Federal Reserve hinting at rate cuts possibly this year by September, and QE possibly coming back. So it's going to get very, very interesting over the next little bit on what we see. My thesis, and I'm, still kind of, my timeline kind of went a little bit back because the summer was mostly bearish for crypto, even though stocks took off and ran like crazy. My thesis is still the same. I think we're still right on the cusp of one of the biggest impulses. And usually these last waves in crypto, especially Bitcoin and altcoins alike, it happens the quickest.
Yep.
And deepest. So, people who are maybe even in algo, right? Algorand's back to like 13 cents, right? Not that far above bottoms.
Maybe 12 cents today.
It could be 12 cents. A lot of people are like, can it really still get to $1 or even above? And it's like, it can. And the thing is, it can move from where it's at now to above $1 in a matter of 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. But then what I see on the other side of that is going to be a very, very large crash, because most of what we know is once the Fed actually cuts rates, that's a signal that the economy can no longer handle, the pressure of high rates, right? So it shows the economy's weak, or it shows at least that the government is realizing that the economy is weak, can't handle it, and thus, yes, money's easier to borrow, more money might get printed in different ways by the government, but it doesn't necessarily mean that markets are going to just pump and go insane. Although I would almost guarantee you that, leading into September and into November with elections, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe we get a pump, when the rate cuts happen, right, to really suck people in.
September rate, yeah.
Yeah, and then they start hinting, oh, there's another cut. Oh, this is going to pump markets even more. But then by the time that second or third cut comes, I think we're going to see a rug of everything, and I'm talking everything.
I see at least two rugs coming, because right now in the stock market, the last basically 3 weeks going down. It's being beat up right now, but that has happened in April, right? So I'm seeing, by data, it says it should happen again around September.
Yeah.
And what we're all thinking, the election pump is going to happen, and hopefully that spills over into crypto. Yeah. Let's check this question out, or a statement. My question for you, the audience, and for you, let's see what you think in Crypto for Change. How long do you diamond hand these coins that you have?
I mean, so there's a part of me, right? I hold algo. I still hold some algo.
Yeah,
obviously not as much as I had before. I do have some different plays that I think will outperform it in terms of, just once the altcoin season kind of really kicks in. But some of these, they're long-term holds. Like, I still believe that there are some blockchains, even like, California putting titles on Avalanche, right? If you're holding the AVAX token right now, I don't know. I haven't looked at it. We can pull it up and see, but I'm sure it's not done great over the past 6 months, with most altcoins getting hammered and falling back down and retracing a lot of their highs. But if you really believe in what the ethos of crypto is, and we're going to be moving most things on chain, I think it's still mostly bullish, especially with the SEC pulling from the Binance lawsuit, naming a lot of these crypto securities now. So I do think that with the new presidency, hopefully we get better regulation. We get a different classification for crypto. Hopefully it's utility tokens, and you see things like Algorand, Cardano, Avalanche, Polygon, all the ones that were named and being kind of pushed away, like, hey, don't buy these are illegal security, unregistered securities. And Gary Gensler and his whole crew have been throwing the flag at them. Hopefully that pressure goes away. We start to see more trust, more validity in the space. Real businesses start, like you said, real businesses are starting to adopt Bitcoin. It'd be interesting to see them adopt other chains for their utility. And so that's where it's like, if you're holding these tokens and they're down 90%, obviously you could sell now and go chase the next pump. Maybe you chase NVIDIA or something that's running hot. But I still think long-term, and this may be 5 years from now, the new digital economy is going to be on chain. Now, I don't know which chain. That's where you may, it is a gamble. You are placing your bets. But, you have to be willing to accept the fact that you may be riding some of these bags to zero, but some of these may end up becoming, powerhouses 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So
yeah, that's the classic set it and forget it.
Yeah, that's my thought process with most of them. Now, there are a few communities and few tokens I'm holding, especially on base, that I think, as if this alt season does happen this year, right into the fall, winter, maybe even spring, I do think some of these communities, some of these tokens are going to pop insane, and there's going to be some great, rewards and money to pull out of there. But for some of these major blockchains, most of them set it, forget it, earn some APY, earn some yield if you can, and just keep watching how the space is evolving, because none of them are truly dead. I know we're going to take a look at some Algorand metrics versus some other ones like Solana, but there's still activity happening everywhere. There's builders building, and more people are only going to come into this space as it gets more regulated and more credible, in the years to come.
I definitely think I agree with what you're saying. It's a dogfight right now. Like I remember the era of the layer ones, just about a year or two ago, where I'm like, if you betted on a layer one like Algorand, Solana, XRP, whatever, Cardano, you did pretty well. Then right now we're on I'll say the tail end of the casino meme coin craze right now, where everybody just want a quick buck. But once that phase dies back down, I think utility layer one's back in action, because all those memes and these businesses are still using and powered by these layer ones. And that's what I think institutions are really into. They're not into as much risk, even though it's all risky, right?
Right.
But it's an early technology still, even though Bitcoin's been out for 15th birthday, something like that. So happy birthday, Bitcoin, this year. But once you hit that 20-year mark, I think you're a solidified technology.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The crypto markets is a huge, it's a cyclical thing where money flows, right? The money flows from the top down, and what we saw, at the end of March was the tail, the end of kind of an alt season where the money flew all the way to the most risky things. I mean, you had WIF and different meme coins up in the billion market caps, and then now they've mostly fell back down, and you have that money rotating and mostly just consolidating in Bitcoin, right? People feel safe in Bitcoin. That's why it's literally been trading sideways for like 2.5 months, just consolidating, because people are waiting for its next big move. And once it makes the next big move, I think, like I said earlier, you'll have Ethereum make a big move, probably Solana make a big move, because it's still held its strength relative to the most of the space. And then again, you'll have that trickle down effect where money flows into various things. The only difference, though, from this bull market to say last bull market, and we've talked about this before on the show, is the amount of new tokens entering the market, right? I mean, I saw a tweet today that said that there's going to be a thing on Twitter where you can literally just tweet and create a token. I already know on Warpcast, which is the social media app for Base, there are frames that let you click and create new tokens within a few clicks. Like, it's getting so easy that, like, new money coming in, right? Their friends maybe aren't telling them, hey, buy Algorand, buy Cardano, buy this. No, they're telling them, hey, buy Miggles, exactly, buy Blurfsky. It's literally just making shit up at this point, because they want to get that 100x. They don't care about the 2, 3, 4x. So honestly, I'm still bearish on many layer ones that, even though they have real utility, I don't think a alt season is going to drive them crazy and go 50, 20, 30, X. At best, you're looking at maybe a 5, 10X for some of them. And some of them may, maybe might not do very well at all. And that's why you have to think about long-term if you're holding these layer ones, because utility will come, just like the Amazons back in the .com bubble. The utility and the usage will come as long as they keep, as long as they're in, gaining that market share. But
I see the same thing. Like, pretty much, if you look at the stock market, there's roughly 6,000-7,000 companies, but how many do you really know about? You probably know about the top 500 or something, like the S&P 500, something like that, whatever rotates in and out. And then you got the bottom half of them, or basically, if a stock's under $10, $20, it's a penny stock, as they call it. And that's where people do get 5x's, 7x's, 8x's at a random time and moment, and then it crashes back down. So that part of the stock market is definitely a casino. And then I see like crypto is turning into the same thing, where you got the bottom half, or probably more coins in crypto though, because like you say, you can click.
Oh yeah, I think it's like 85-90%.
Where you just gambling, and then you got the top, look at the coin market cap 100. Those ones are maybe the most solid, but we will see. So let's pull up this Algorand metrics real quick. Talk a little bit of that. I know their transparency report is out. I think, it seems like it's looking good from the tweets that I'm seeing online.
Yeah, I mean, net I think it was outflows. Obviously, people leave, money and value leaving the chain was, has maybe seemed to bottom. And that's
Mhm.
just a testament to the fact that, like, there are people who are going to be here, going to continue building on Algorand,
Yeah,
regardless of the Algorand token price. And you have your people who are just speculating, right? Coming in, transacting based on what's hot and what's got the
yeah,
attention. But Algorand's still doing, decent, as far as transactions per second, obviously staying up. Its block time is still amazing.
yep,
There's still a few more of the upgrades to the consensus and stuff that I'm still looking forward to, especially to get more decentralized, because I do think that that could help bring some critics, maybe like your Justin Bonds and stuff, to include Algorand in maybe more viable option over something like a Solana, because we're seeing tons of bots, tons of memes, tons of just crap being thrown in our face about how great Solana is, when we know that it's got its issues as well. I
yeah,
even saw a tweet yesterday that the founder of Solana was saying, well, you guys, Algorand solved the MEV problem. And it's kind of like, it's true, because the guy was arguing with him and he just literally told him how its randomness works with consensus. And obviously it's like, yeah, it's true. You really can't do certain things,
yeah,
spammy bot things that you can do on Solana and Ethereum because of the ability to bribe, or ability to, just because how slow, right, the blocks are. But it's still, like I said, there's still so much fluff in the space that it's really hard to know what's real, what's fake. But
yeah.
Algorand, I will say, it's not fluffing any numbers right there. It's that you see what you get.
Yeah, well, and I do one thing about, because we talk about bots on Solana. We're gonna pull Solana up. I have noticed, because the Algorand's transactions are so smooth and so affordable, I do get spam posts though in my
Hmm.
wallet. So I
Yeah.
get a lot of those, and then spam posts will follow up and say that it's a spam. So when those spam posts happens, it does count as transactions. So I think every
But that's
blockchain
still
got spamming on there.
right, but that's still a legit transaction, and it's completed. I think where Solana is kind of fluffing is the counting failed transactions as transactions. It's
Yeah,
trying to make it seem like, hey, especially when those failed transactions account for the majority of the transactions on chain that are counted. So I think it's just, it's trying to make yourself look, it's trying to, put glitter on shit, in my opinion. But that's just like I said, that's kind of where we're at. Especially, like I said, you can go to
yeah,
Dex Screener, right? Go to Dex Screener and look at, say, Ethereum, or look at, say, Polygon, or even Bitcoin. And most of them have solid projects building that are like listed at the top, right? You go to Solana, literally you could scroll for pages. All of it is meme coins. Like, there's no utility,
I'm
there's
about to
no
go.
real value when looking at what's being built on Solana. And so that's still my biggest critique, and why I don't really trust much of my value there. I mean, I definitely swing trade and with some of the meme coins if I get a good call from some buddies, but yeah, I'm not holding real value there because I just don't trust it.
No, no, you can't. Here's the Ethereum. Let me go to Solana.
I mean, just you can literally read off some of them, and it's just like it makes no sense. Like, most of them are memes right now
Really? Yeah,
about the elections or
yeah.
the
Donald
Olympics.
Pump,
Yeah.
Kamala Coin, Kamala Harris, son of, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Nero. Yeah, it's kind of funny though. It's definitely, yeah, dog with hat. Moo the Bull, Punky.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It is mostly exactly what you said. You know what? I haven't heard much about Binance Smart Chain ever since they took CZ out.
I know. I was sitting there thinking, maybe if with the SEC pulling their, kind of the verbiage in that lawsuit against Binance, I was thinking, man, how crazy would it be if they ended up lowering the sentence for CZ, or letting him out maybe, and that
Yeah,
sparks some type of alt season as he comes back and he's kind of like, able to bring Binance, back to being a top dog. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know anybody who uses Binance Smart Chain. I don't
me
talk to
either.
anybody who uses it. I feel like it's more of, maybe it's just outside the US
Uh-huh.
is the reason why. But hey, it's still top 5 chain, so it's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
something right.
And let me pull this up right here. This is something I thought was interesting. Bots suspected of pushing Solana over Ethereum. I believe that's true for sure. Um, one thing we know is Solana does know how to get their numbers up. So you
Yeah.
can't be mad at them. Failed, no failed, bots or no bots. They definitely get their numbers
I'll say this though. I think people are underestimating the move that Ethereum is going to have with this ETF, spot ETF approved, because it would take a long time for Solana to even get one because it doesn't even have a futures ETF. So you're looking at a long time before anything else even gets put on there. And so if you're looking at institutional level money getting into the space, it's going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the fact that Ethereum hasn't even hit new all-time highs yet, I think just shows how early we still kind of are in this mega cycle, I guess you could say, that crypto's in are going to be going through over the next 3, 6, maybe year plus.
Yeah. Let me pull up coin. Let's look at some of these coins. But yeah, I definitely futures always comes first. So it makes sense why Solana probably won't get one. You got to get that.
They'll probably get one, but it's probably going to take at least a solid. I would not be surprised to see it a year plus.
Mm-hmm. So we had market cap of 2.3 trillion. We never hit 3 trillion this year, I don't think.
I think we did. I think we touched it in that back in March. I think it was like right at it.
Let's see.
I'd have to go look at the total. You know, and there's still one thing. I'm
pretty close.
Yeah, I'm going to clean up this chart that I'll pull it in and show something. But and I've still been, I think I shared this on a couple of our shows, but just my thoughts on ultimately where I see, the space going, right? And so we've been in this massive, you could say call it a pennant, you could call it a bull flag, whatever you want to look at. But, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then usually the fifth wave is where you bust out. And so obviously, since the last time we had our show, we were up here and looking like we were maybe going to bust out. But that hasn't happened yet. Maybe we're looking at a lower high, reverse back up, bounce and go. We could come down, right? I mean, this could be a huge fall down to 40, 49, maybe even into the mid 40K region, right? Gain some support here before bouncing. But I would not be surprised to see this area right here just kind of float before moving, and like I said, Bitcoin pushing upwards. Now, one thing I do want to say. Let me just clear all these drawings. If we go to the S&P, and I want you to kind of get this zigzag, whoops, let me get back to my cursor here, this zigzag pattern right here that we have in your mind. Because if you go back to the S&P, what this kind of looks like is right here, this zigzag, right? You had this bear, the bear market bottom for the S&P, and you had this, it made a massive run all the way up, and then it traded sideways for a solid, 3-6 months, right? And then you had this massive blow off. And I wouldn't be surprised if you go back to, the Bitcoin chart. Right now, we're sitting in that chop. And obviously, if we get that big explosive move upwards, like I say, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin make a move above 100K, something wild. But
if you exhaust all the sellers, like I think it's exhausted right now. We saw a spike to 70K a few days ago.
I don't even think it's exhausting the sellers, because look at especially here's what I think. You see the game plan of what the governments and what the Fed has done, right? Especially with what happened with COVID. Now, I'm not saying that a thing like COVID has to happen again for us to get this, because it doesn't. But we know that they're going to be doing QE, like they're going to bring rates down. The money supply, global money supply, liquidity is about to be unleashed. And honestly, that's what's going to attract retail. Retail and even institutions to an extent aren't going to be the main reason. It's going to be new liquidity, new money injected into the system. And once that happens, you will get your blow off top. And that's what draws everyone in, regardless if you're retail, institution, VC, your mom, your dad, whatever it is, they'll all be buying because, people won't be able to avoid, when they see this God candle possibly print for Bitcoin and it does something like that. Like people are going to be buying it. Let's just be honest. And so that's just kind of where I'm waiting on. It's just waiting to see. Don't
know what happened there. Maybe he'll be right back. But as we were saying, God candle coming. Let me check to see what happened.
That was funny. I thought I was clicking stop sharing. I clicked leave the studio. So
I was like, damn, I thought I hit a button there. I was like, oh, hopefully it wasn't me. But okay. So you rugged yourself. You rugged
I
yourself.
rugged myself. But needless to say, I wouldn't be surprised to see, as the liquidity gets injected into the system, a tide lifts all boats type scenario. And I think it's coming. It's just a matter of when, not if.
So with interest rates was basically between 0 and 1% during COVID, or 2%.
It was 0. I mean,
0%.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, obviously, mortgage rates dropped as low. I think, I was literally doing mortgages. It was like 1.7 stuff was like the lowest. But like, yeah, as far as
we need that type of environment, the U.S. going up.
Yeah, it dropped all the way to 0. One chart I've not looked at, and I got to remember the ticker for it. Reverse repo. Let me see here. Yeah, so this is another one that I've actually watched, and I'll share this again. Hopefully, I don't end up dropping out the thing again. But this is when we saw the reverse repo really created right during the COVID thing. This was all the money that got injected into all the way up to $2.5 trillion, right? And they have been sucking this money out, I think, in most cases, to keep this economy, from literally just disaster, right? But they're almost out. They only have $413 billion left. What happens when that thing runs out? What do you think?
You got to inject.
Exactly. They're and that's the thing, is the new administration, I would say Trump, once this thing is fully drained, I would not be surprised if they don't create something new that ends up to give them the ability to inject money into the market and create another massive bull run cycle. And this is the reason why you wonder why Bitcoin and everything is trading flat. Look at this thing. This thing has been trading flat since February. When did the bull market pretty much stop? February, March. Like that's literally when everything stopped. And look at the liquidity. It is literally just sitting there. And like I say, once this thing starts to fall down and goes closer to 0, that's when you're going to get that massive bull run, and we're going to see some new liquidity injected into the market. So they still got money to deal with. Yeah,
they definitely do. Hold on. They're going to need to inject some money, because looking at prices, I guess, slightly came down for certain things. The housing market doesn't look the best. And then in terms of global economy, the world still looks at the U.S. to make sure that they got their money right. Low interest rates. The yen is still dropping. So there's signs. But at the end of the day, I think most of the world right now has to finish out their elections. India had theirs, the UK had theirs. So everybody's pretty much waiting on the US to finish theirs. And I think it's back to business for the global economy pretty much.
Yeah. And like I say, if Trump wins, I wouldn't be surprised if they do everything in their power to spur markets and pump everything to new all-time highs to just try and solidify, their agenda and get people on their side. Wouldn't be surprised.
I think both of them are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, no matter who, honestly,
whoever wins, it's like you're going to want that thing to be pumping your first year for sure. So you can say, look what I did. I was looking at historical data, and so you had like ever since I think it was like Nixon or Reagan or something, when a Democrat's in office, the market pumps a little bit more than when a Republican was in office. And the only time that has happened recently was Trump versus Biden. They both pumped because that was like kind of, during COVID, but Trump pumped more than Biden. But like, I think it was like Obama might've had the most pumping out of everybody for like 2 terms straight.
And it ultimately matters, especially if you're looking at that, that type of his data is, who's got the House, who's got the Senate, and various other things. Because when, say one of them gets a sweep, right, and you have everything, then, that also skews and changes things based on, how easy it is for them to get the things they want to get passed. So like I say, regardless, it's going to be interesting how this year and the beginning of next year turns out.
Definitely. All right. So thank you guys all for tuning in. We're going to close out. We got our sponsors at the end of this episode today. Big shout out to NFD, Examarket, and Gora. And we will see you all next week.
Peace.
Peace.